Everybody, welcome back into Going Public. I am Harry McCullough. This week we're spending some time with Wendell Curall. Thanks so much, Wendell, for being here. And it's been a heck of a year, huh?
A heck of a good year, I'm telling you. But all that needed to be done to fix after all that destruction we had with Ida. And to have this year, we all needed this year to back up. I mean, still so many houses not dealt with yet. I just look around and I'm thankful that we got the break we needed. And the whole nation would have had a break if Ian wouldn't have shown up.
Right, for the most part.
It's terrible what those people went through, and I'm seeing the people that died for that storm, over 100 people, going toward 150 people.
Right.
And that's the good fortune we had, at least in South of Fuchs, nobody died, that's miraculous to me, with 40% of the people staying, which was a mistake.
Right.
All in all, this is fantastic.
Yeah. It's funny because we were all going, well, you see, we're going to have a year where we don't have hurricanes, we don't have the global, the climate alarmists, which again, obviously they need something to be done, but, we all need to kind of do our parts anyway. It just seemed like it was going to be that year, like, we just won't be talking about it. And then Ian happens, which has so many similarities to
exactly. It's like
3 letters. It starts with I.
Yeah. No, but even the parameters of it. In fact, y'all did the graphics over here. If y'all want to put the graphic
Sure.
up. But y'all did that. Y'all put that together. Over
Yeah.
here.
So we'll be talking about without flood control, nothing else matters. Right?
Yeah.
So.
But y'all did these 2 graphics we're going to start with, and a great job. On the left, you see Hurricane Ida, and it's attacking the Louisiana coast, and you see the storm just starting to cause some serious problems for Fouchon. And then, of course, it goes up and goes along the Lafourche Terrebonne line. And terrible, we got the south wind, and Terrebonne got some terrible north wind and all the problems that happened. But and then you see the storm on the right, of course, Ian, and it's almost a twin. There's some differences, but when you put it all together, they're basically did about the same type of damage. You'll notice the eye walls were a little bit different, but actually that's a process that storms go through. And Ida, another 6 hours would have, and stayed offshore, would have made a new eye wall, and it could have got the same size. Of course, they had a lot more rainfall for Ian. That's another kind of difference. But the Berry Islands over there paid a terrible price, just like Grand Isle paid a terrible price. Now, behind the Berry Islands, of course, they have people right there, the small bay. Well, we're 11 miles from Leeville and south and as much as 20 miles north of Grand Isle, but yet the storm waters and wind were just like what happened on the Florida coast, but they don't have levees.
Right.
Okay. And from what I understand, they have limestone, which is porous. If you built levees, water would come through anyway to some extent.
They would have to be more like Bay St. Louis, though, right? They're almost more on the coast.
They're absolutely right there. But we're on the coast now because we lost the land. It used to be between us and the coast.
Right.
But the water went up to the 12 to 13 foot elevation, which is what their land went to. Of course, our land, there's nothing that's 13 feet high. So we have the levees there that stop that water from coming in. And so we had no water on the roads. We had, the damage on the outside of the system. It looked like what they had in Florida. Inside the system, you had the wind damage, but you had no flood waters, no NFIP claims, and we had water up to 16-foot elevation up on the levee with the debris line. We know we had a solid 12 to 13-foot storm surge, and with all of that, water didn't get in.
Right.
And so that's the fantastic thing. But these 2 storms, like I said, they were like twins, and you can compare it how both of those affected theirs, and I'd like to see more comparisons as we get the detailed report from Ian to so we can say this is what can happen if you have a levee, and this is what you have if you don't have a levee.
Right. Yeah.
But of course, they have more density in their development.
And it does kind of remind me of 2005. Of course, we had Katrina, and then we had Rita, and then Gustav, and then we had another storm. But it was similar, and they were big storms like that popped up. And then we hadn't had those big ones for a while, it seemed like, and now we get 2 and 2.
Well, exactly. But again, you look at the average. I was reading a report before this season started, and that if you average, if you look at the hurricane average from 2005 to today, it is average. You know, we had all these storms since 2017,
Right.
but we didn't have too much after you got past Gustav. We didn't have too much. You had Isaac maybe.
Right.
And that's another thing. You look at these storms and what they can do. Isaac hung around for 3 days.
Right.
And I was talking to some people from St. Bernard, and they said, the wind, you could run around all day in that wind, and it was strong.
Braithwaite. Yeah, Braithwaite.
Braithwaite got 16 feet, but it was because that storm sit out there 3 days pushing that wind. So here's a non-powerful storm, and then that brings you back to Juan.
Right.
Hurricane
Exactly.
Juan.
Right.
I mean, you could hardly tell there was a hurricane. There was a couple of
just back and forth
waves you
across the
saw, but
state.
it stayed there long enough with the same direction of wind to flood from actually Jefferson Parish all the way to Terrebonne. We had this terrible flooding. And I was looking at some of the things that the work in Terrebonne and Lafourche, and you know, we flooded because we're pretty susceptible, all right? But at that time, before Juan, Terrebonne Parish didn't give a lot of attention to hurricanes, okay?
Right.
And that's what was the beginning of the
started
South
it.
Terrebonne system started because of Hurricane Juan.
Sure did. We have some video that we were going to take a look at, right? You want to
Yes.
talk about this?
Yeah, definitely.
So,
And this is y'all camera. And, you know, this is y'all work. And if you look at the right in the middle, there's a black kind of bar roll, and that's the top of our wall at a plus 16. The yellow thing is our gate, and you can see it's not just waves coming up. The actual surge is increasing. The waves are coming up maybe a foot at a time, but then it's staying up. And that's 16 feet.
wow.
Yes, I mean,
That's marsh grass, and you can see which is that brown.
that
you
debris,
see
yeah.
Maybe
that's,
a crab
yeah.
trap in there. the
That's
white.
right. That's a float for a crab trap. And you see
But
it.
you're right. That's not just a breaking wave. That's a
right,
surge.
at a foot at a time. And eventually the camera went out. Well, it's still going on right here, but you see how high it's getting? And the camera goes right before it gets over the top. Now that I know is absolutely 16 feet. So we had a 16-foot storm surge right there. And other places we did have 16, but luckily we had only 3 places where the water really came over. Only one place where it ponded, and the one place that it ponded was a sugarcane field. I went and talked to the people after the sugarcane season, and they said they had a record year. You know, so like I told you,
You got all the debris to help out.
that's right. Well, it was so terrible to get the worst part of that storm with the wind and the water, but then after that, everything worked out in our
sure
favor.
did.
You know, the drought that took place after the storm, I was talking to my engineers. We got more, not just repair, but improvement to the system the past 7, 8 months than we did for the previous 3 years. Because I don't know if you remember, well, again, if you do dirt work, you notice.
Sure.
We hardly were able to get any work done for a couple of years because it was raining all the
wet.
time, all the time. You go 3 days without rain, and then it'd hit and just got wet enough, and you'd get going again. That drought that we had was a godsend. You know,
So you got a lot of work done this year.
we got a ton of work, got ahead of ourselves. I'm really excited. As we work through the winter, I think by the spring, we will be probably in the best maintenance situation, South Lafourche levee, that we've ever had. And that's kind of crazy to say after the
Right.
damage we had last year. But things have worked out well, and our field crews have been doing a great job. The board has supported everything we wanted to do and needed to do. And it's been great. And when you get that many storms, the improvements here in Terrebonne, I was seeing what we're doing. But there's a brand new, I call it a virgin levee, because when you build a levee for the first time in the marsh, it's a real challenge, okay? You're not going on dry land and just kind of building up and digging a burrow canal. And Reach L, the connection between the Grand Bayou floodgate and the levee system in La Rose. I went when they started, and of course it's marsh on marsh, and then they're bringing material in and putting it, and it sinks. But then I went just yesterday, and now they have heavy equipment driving in the middle of what used to be marsh. And it's amazing the progress and what they're doing. That's going to be
really take some bites out of it.
That's going to close the link between our system and Grand Bayou. And even though you might have this levee is not real tall, but it's going to not and keep the water out. And even if water gets over the top, there's marsh on the backside and not houses.
Right.
But even at elevation, as the water goes over the top, it's going to knock down the wave and cut it at its knees.
Right.
You know, and it's going to you have water come over, but it will slow it down to the point that it's a real improvement. You know, people say, well, if it goes over the top, no. It's a real improvement because it stops the energy and it slows the water. And the trick in a storm is holding on long enough for the wind to change direction.
Right.
And you can get past those things even with water coming in.
Yeah, I mean, look, you saw 16 feet of water. Where would that water have gone? You know.
Oh,
so
I mean, look, and that was the whole thing. 40% of the people stayed. Had the system not worked, and 16 feet, it would have flooded houses up to 8 to 10 feet in the houses.
Right.
40% of the population there, I guarantee, would have lost over a couple of hundred people.
Oh, absolutely. People and obviously.
Well, the damage of the
damage.
the whole community would have been maybe never come back again.
Yeah, Wendell walked in today with a smile on his face. He said, "It's cool out there. Another cool front, wind blowing north. That's a good sign." So, all right, we'll take another break. We'll be right back with more Going Public right after this.
A new company with a lot of history, GIS Engineering has rapidly grown its brand around an experienced team of professionals. GIS Engineering is a full-service planning, engineering, procurement, and construction management company specializing in coastal protection and restoration, upstream and downstream industrial, and transportation infrastructure projects. Putting people first, GIS Engineering, a new company with a lot of history.
Pelican Waste and Debris is your local company. We don't just work here, we live here and understand the unique challenges that face our region. Our commitment to our community and customers and love for Louisiana keeps us motivated. Pelican meets every residential and commercial service need, offering roll-off, front-load, and compactor services, ideal for hotels, restaurants, apartments, construction or industrial sites, and much more. We also make recycling simple and cost-efficient, offering single-stream recycling program options. We have set the highest standards for environmental protection, community engagement, and guaranteed client satisfaction. Visit pelicanwaste.net or call us at 985-873-9553 to save money with hassle-free service. Our team has over 100 years of experience, so we know how to make you happy. The sky is the limit, so fly with the Pelican.
Everybody, welcome back to Going Public. Harry McCullough here. We're speaking with the South Lafourche Levee District's president, Wendell Curl.
Well, I'm the general manager.
General
I
manager.
work for a board. Actually, Keith Guidry is the president.
Gotcha.
He just took over from Ronald Colley, long-time president. And then I only worked for one other president. That was Leon Terrio, who stopped being president in 1999.
I got you. Okay, so
Yeah.
you're general manager, but they always call it the Wendell Levee.
When you deal with something for over 42 years, you know, and like I said, I've been dealing with coastal stuff for over 50 years,
Right.
so I've been hanging around a long time. That seems to go. But look, when you do something this big, it's just an army of people to get what we've accomplished. I mean, started with Dick Guidry back in the 1950s. That's how long it takes. But had he not started in the 1950s,
Right.
we might not have a community. I guarantee you.
We'd all be north,
we came
right?
so close,
Yep.
working this long, and yet we were overtopped by this storm. But it was a powerful storm, and we just got to be fortunate that Dick started it. And you look at the community, the taxes we had to pass. You know, the Corps was a partner with us at
Can't
the
wait on
beginning.
anybody else, right?
And then finally in the 96, 97, the Gingrich and Clinton were fighting. The federal budget was stopped. And so we decided we couldn't avoid to be slowed down or we couldn't deal with the issue.
Right.
Federal government not sending us money, so we couldn't move forward. So we doubled the millage tax. Went to the people, said, you give us double the money you've given us, and we'll continue. And at least we won't stop and be cold if we have no federal money. And they 73% approval to double the taxes, the property taxes. And then after Katrina, when we were supposed to get federal money coming in to raise the levy to the new 100 year, because we had a project that was authorized. Well, us and Plaquemine were left out of the deal. They took care of the 5 parishes around New Orleans. I went back to the people and said, look, we really need to get some more improvements. Went for 1 penny sales tax. It put us the highest sales tax in the area. We didn't feel good about it, but we needed to do it for the future of the community. 82% approval, you know, and we don't exist. And now we do not survive this storm without the people of South Lafourche doing it. So when you say Windows levy, okay, but I mean it's everybody's.
Yeah,
okay, I mean the
great
people
roadmap for Terrebonne Parish and other parishes.
and we work together.
Right,
you know, I mean, we work together. We continue to work together, and actually the whole state has come together a lot better than it ever was before Katrina.
Right. Sure, without a doubt. We're going to talk a little bit about computer modeling. And is this, what are we talking about? Storms? Or are we talking
Storms. We're talking about storms, but I mean, it still starts with basic weather. But think about, and this is the thing about predicting weather. It's a complex system. You know, when you think about wind blowing, okay, and the temperatures and the moisture and the humidity, and it interacting with the ocean and it changing, and the temperatures either being warm or cool, all of those taking place. And there are no hard boundaries, you know. At the end of this mic is the end of this mic. But when you got a weather system, they move, they cut, and to predict weather more than 3 days is almost a guess.
Right.
So that's the limit of kind of what you can predict what's going to happen.
Still
And
incredible what they do now.
Well, it is,
Still
and
incredible.
they've improved, but everybody needs to understand
It's not perfect, but it's still incredible.
Well, look, talk about, you heard all the complaints about with
Tampa
Ian.
Bay, yeah.
They said Tampa Bay, Tampa Bay, Tampa Bay, and people said,
south.
they're all upset because it moved 20 miles further south. And it makes a difference. Now, you know, they make a 5-day forecast. Average misses are about 125 miles, okay?
Right.
But 24 hours before, you still
They
get
have-
these 20 and 30 mile misses. And that's, if you're on the right side compared to the left side, can make the difference with, let's look at Ida. We have
Right.
experience with Ida. Had Ida hit where they said it was going to hit, Western Terrebonne,
Morgan City, yeah.
Eastern Terrebonne would have gotten the 16 feet of water that we got.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
But it didn't. It hit right on the line, so we got the 16 feet. And when Hurricane Katrina hit, it was actually headed right for the Terrebonne,
Oh,
the
yeah?
Lafourche line.
Sure.
But right south of the Mississippi River, it went due north.
Mm-hmm.
Now, instead of having 20 feet of water destroying our communities, we basically had
we got the north
6
line.
feet
Right.
of water,
Right.
you know, against our levee. And then the wind was only about 80 miles an hour. And I'm looking at Terrebonne, they got basically nothing, maybe
Right.
40 mile an hour winds,
Right.
you know. But that storm just as easily could have
Sure.
gone where Ida went, and we're talking a whole new ballgame.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
so that's just the unpredictability. And again, the one message we're trying to get out is, yes, we have a good system, but no one should have gambled their lives that our system would have worked against that storm.
Right.
The parish did a good job of ordering evacuation at the right time. People should have left. Lucky nobody died. We're happy nobody died. We're happy that the system did its job. But we couldn't say that the water wasn't going to be 3 feet higher where it could have caused problems.
Right,
So
right.
the issue with storms is no one, if you think you know, you don't
You
know.
don't know.
If you know you don't know, you know.
Right.
Okay.
Anybody that's been
So-
around here ought to know that, though.
so we have our scientists put together these storm models, and if we go get the first image up, now this is called the slosh model, and this is one of the first ones built in 1984, 85. We did this. Now, emergency preparedness for the state had money from the different parishes to do this study. And Terrebonne chose not to get involved in the study. Okay, so you're not going to see Terrebonne in this study for one reason. They didn't want to invest some money and get part of it. But these lines, what they do, they're showing the hurricane is passing, the eye of the hurricane is passing along each one of those lines. Okay, so you can see some of the lines go from southwest to northeast. So you're going to have these hurricanes, and they'll do the model and move it 15, 20 miles side by side,
Degrees over.
so that when you look at the maps that we're going to look at, every point on the map, that's the highest storm surge you can expect. Now, no
the
storm's
perfect
ever going to
storm.
flood
Right,
like the
correct.
map shows.
Right.
But you say this
perfect
point.
storm for each one.
Well,
Yeah.
for each spot.
Right.
So, but it's never going to have all of that water in the whole area that's there. And so you see all the different directions. Due south, then you have the typical southeast to northwest. That's the most typical storm attacks that we have. The storms typically do that. So if you want to go to the first slide. Now, in the color, okay, this is and they did this mapping that they did. There was about 20 different scenarios, 25. This is a scenario where you have a Category 3 storm. It's a slow-moving storm. A slow-moving is 5 miles or less. A fast is 7 to 15 miles an hour. And here's a Category 3 moving northeasterly. Okay, so that's going from southwest to northeast. And when you're looking at the purple, okay, in New Orleans, they're saying 16 to 17
New Orleans
feet.
East, yeah.
Okay, in New Orleans East, they're saying the levee system in New Orleans worked, and they're putting about 9 to 10 feet of water in South Lafourche with this storm. But again, one of the certain alignments, they're showing that there could be as much as 9 to 10 feet in the Thibodeau area.
Right. Oh, wow.
Okay, but that's what a slow-moving storm can do. What you'll find, the slow-moving storms, you'll have a more flatter approach, so that the water in the southern part of Lafourche, at that, because it's slow,
Just
it
pushes
keeps
it up.
pumping it
Right.
north. Now, the faster-moving storms will stack up the water on the south part of the parishes, and kind of the storm will get over it, and it won't get that water all the way to the north because the wind starts changing
Right.
directions to the north. So this is the view of that storm. Okay, the next one. Now, this is a Category 3, again, slow moving, but now the storm is moving northwesterly, so that's southeast and northwest, a more
Southeast and
typical
west.
storm.
Right.
And again, we see the same water elevations in the South Lafourche area, but in the upper part of the system, it drops down to 4 feet. And again,
I see.
that's just the difference of the attack of the storm, doing that difference on the same storm and a slow-moving storm, but because of the angle, the counterclockwise rotation,
Right.
it doesn't put the water on the northern part of the parish, where we stay almost the same in South
Sure.
Lafourche. Okay, next, yeah, this is a Category 4 or 5 slow storm moving northeasterly. So that's from southwest to northeast, and more rare type of storm. And again, it shows us at about 11 feet in the southern port, but it's a slow-moving storm. And they're showing as much as 16 feet
Gee.
up in the Thibodeau area. Now, that's a rare storm. Slow-moving storm going
Right.
that direction is a
Sure.
rare storm. You say, well, it never happened. Well, maybe sometime in the
Right.
past, but on a recorded history, we haven't had it. But it's about knowing the possibilities, and the probability is another thing. This is possibilities. Probability is looking at how many storms hit. Now, the next one. Now, this is a fast Category 4 or 5, moving northwesterly again. Again, we get like 14 feet of water in the southern part of the parish, hardly none in the upper part of the parish. Okay? And then I think that is the last one.
Yeah.
But it's just to show you how the angles are. And what's good about this slosh model, it was one of the early models that it's simple, but it actually captures the status that they need to catch. The AdCirc model, it's slower, has more data, but I really don't find it much better than the slosh model was.
Right.
Yeah.
Very interesting. You're going to be the celebration, retirement, roast, and toast for you.
Well, it's going to be a
At Nichols.
semi-retirement.
Yeah, I was like, where are you going?
November 1st, they're trying to make some money for the scholarship for kids who are taking coastal studies. And what is it? I think it's $70.
Yeah, $70.
But they're going to have some heavy hors d'oeuvres or shrimp and some other things and drinks. And some people are going to try to be funny and make fun of my life. And if they're not successful, it's their fault because I had a lot of funny stuff happen. Okay.
Yeah.
You know?
So that'll be Tuesday, November 1st from 4 to 7. It'll be at the Nickel State Ballroom. And again, $7 per person. And I don't know who's going to roast and toast you, but I'll toast you.
Reggie's one of them. Reggie's one of them.
Well, Wendell, we appreciate it, man. Thank you so much.
Good talking to you.
And that'll do it for Going Public. I'm Harry McCullough. See you next time.